my dude Ben gave me the lick that I want to use. Here it is. I haven't screamed Hyperlyte over the top yet, but we're getting there. So Hyperlyte Hotline is open. The link is in the show notes and bio. And coming in July, we hope to have a lot of conversations with you all because we were so inspired by the live broadcast. So we're pretty pumped on that. So jump on that, send us stuff. We're going to use you a lot during the month of July. We'll talk about the overall stuff here. We got our own narratives, the 200 milers, the made men versus the associates. Shout out to Ira Libre, Discover the World Through Running, and Naked Sports Innovations for giving us what we need to make the coverage of Western States happen. All right. With that out of the way, Brian, how you holding up? How you doing post Western States? Did you get a little Western States drunk? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm good if it doesn't happen for another year.
Much respect to Debo and crew for being on camera all that whole time. Us doing that every hour on the hour for anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes just increases my respect level for anyone trying to do on the microphone for an endurance sport.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was an amazing day. I mean, it was fun to watch the race unfold. It's fun to get on there and do it with you. Like we said, on the hour, every hour, something new for both of us. And I think, quite unique for, anybody to attempt to do that. So yeah, thought it was a success and had some fun with the community out there.
Think about 5 years from now, we're catching up, we're chatting, and I say, hey, remember Western States 2025?
Yeah.
What comes to mind? What do you think comes to mind 5 years from now?
Definitely, the on the hour, every hour, I think experience for us would certainly come to mind. And then next it would be Caleb. I think Caleb Olson putting down a performance, for the ages. And just kind of doing it in a Caleb way where it was almost, an unassuming
that's right
direct threat of the course record, which what's crazy is that as it was unfolding, I wasn't even thinking back to the debate with Joe Corcione and thinking, holy crap, like that's actually coming into play here. So hats off to Joe. I think had I thought about that, I would have been sweating a bit more to see that he would have won here.
The debate already. Give me more specifics on that conversation with Joe to help me remember.
Well, we were debating on which course record was going to be under threat first, which one was going to fall, and so, his take was that Jim's course record was more under threat. I thought obviously the women's record was, and we gave our points in case, and this year Jim's record had a serious run. I mean, I think it was uncertain all the way up the final paved road stretch. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, as a pro, Caleb can't say that it wasn't on his mind or was on his mind or whatever. I mean, but to be off by 2.5 minutes, he's going for the W, got the W, but could he have made up those 2 minutes? As a fan, it would have been fun to be off by just a few seconds. I like that Jim still has it, but it was fun, just to be off by 2 minutes. But Abby, let's see. Abby was off. She's 16:37. Course record was 15:29.
Right.
So an hour.
But
we had a great race, which is what we want ultimately in the moment more than anything.
Right. Yeah, fascinating, how that course record, and it just seemed visually, again, the optics of it was that, of the first 5 or so men that came in, he kind of looked the most pedestrian and unalarmed, or he seemed like he was, just content with the day, and how could he not be? So right again, hats off to him.
I think an interesting metric here is how many people have won Western States without smiling the whole time. We've got Caleb Olson. He's just an introvert doing his work. Jim may be like that as well, but that's what was fun about Chris Myers, to your point in the coverage, when he put on the goggles, it was like, this guy's having fun. And if he didn't put on the goggles 5 years from now, I'm not going to remember him. So it's like, hey, remember that guy put on the goggles? Like, oh yeah, Chris Myers. Yeah, that was memorable. So that was a great move on his part to do something good for the personal brand, going forward.
Yeah. What I'll remember most about Chris was his post-race interview with Corinne, and immediately kind of called out the naysayers for saying he didn't have another hour improvement in his legs or he made reference to something, and yeah, it was cool to see that he was running with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. All right. So, in your mind, Caleb Olson is now a made man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, we to see what he does with that. Obviously there's levels to made men.
sure.
So hopefully again this. I don't know. Hopefully this is. Debo said it on the air that this was a life changing moment for him.
Yeah,
It probably it's probably not financially in the way that we typically refer to it in sports, right? Like
right,
if you get drafted in the first round for the NBA or football or something, that's life changing. You're making seven figures now.
right.
Like this could be life changing, maybe in changing his character, his personality within the sport, right? Like he
Yeah,
might get a little bit more, I don't not to say confident, but he might get more engaged with the professional side of the sport.
yeah. I mean, you win the Masters, and you could live off that money for the rest of your life.
Right.
Let's do a check in on his Instagram as we speak here. We're recording this on Monday, June 30th, releasing it today as well. So let's just see, because when he left, got some coffee here. When we left off with him, he was at on the air that night. He was at 5,500.
Right.
So what do we have? Caleb, hey, what's his 1-2? Caleb Olson 1-2-3. He is at 18,700. Okay, so he had a little bit of a bigger bump than Dan. But
But he
Dan,
got Nike. That's the thing. Is like we
that's
said,
right.
Nike put a post up on their direct Nike page, which has how many hundreds of millions of followers, or
Yeah, lots. And
right,
it said fastest run in the West. Kind of
right.
cute. Kind of cute.
So here's something kind of crazy too. Like this just popped in my head when we talk about life changing and all
Yeah,
these different things that winning Western States does for you, right? So
yeah,
contrast it to somebody like Will Goosh who runs across Australia, was right.
right.
Yeah. And then when he wraps that, he goes and hangs out at Monaco for F1. Like, so he did actually go and, have that you're going to Disneyland moment after he accomplished something incredible in Ultra. It's
That's
just
true.
crazy again. Like, Will Goose goes and runs across Australia and then, is rubbing knuckles with or rubbing elbows with, some of the elites in
Yeah,
life and the winner of Western States. It's just
still
like,
not there.
it's polarizingly different.
Do you think that this shirt that he had on was an all-time shirt?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
One
bet
of my
that thing's gonna
buddies,
sell well.
yeah, one of my buddies, he sent me a picture of his arm with kind of like this, like with the sleeve on, and I was like, wait, what? That's the Nike shirt? How did you get that already? Right.
Yeah,
What he had done is he had taken like one of those, like, I think Japanese fruits that have those like sleeves.
I thought about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I was like, wait, is that one of those fruit sleeves? And he's like, yeah, yeah. So it's already memeable,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
definitely think it's an iconic shirt.
Yes, Nike served him well. That's a good example of your partner, your sponsor, doing something for you that makes you more iconic. Like that. That was helpful to Caleb, who is this quiet, shy guy. That gave him a little bit more. I mean, the number of accounts this morning that have a post about the shirt helped him.
Right.
Something he may not have done on his own. He might have been a little bit more quiet, a little more low profile, solid colored T-shirt kind of guy.
Right. But then again, that's my point of like the clothes wearing you and you not wearing the clothes.
Yeah.
I don't think Caleb's the type of guy to carry that forward to where,
No.
It's going to do anything long lasting.
Yeah. 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 So, any other associates that became made men? What about Hans Schroyer? Stayed an associate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think even if he had, I think even if he had won it, he still would have been an associate, just because of his youthfulness and lack of other major accomplishments. He didn't
Yeah.
win Canyons. He didn't win Black Canyon. So
Right.
there was still a lot left to be done, and
Yeah.
you don't want to rush somebody through the process of moving from associate to made man. That's what makes the sport fun as a fan. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I
And
mean,
everyone will be watching him next year. Like everyone's excited about him. Dan coming up into 12th. I was surprised to see that and really pumped. That was a real rally on Dan.
oh, fantastic, right? I mean, I think the guy, get sign the man, put him on the payroll. Like, let's go, Coors. What are we slow
I know.
walking this for.
And who else ran? Like, he was running through first base, man. Did you see him cross the finish line? He ran through the finish.
Where did he go?
I don't know. I want to know. All the videos cut off before he got somewhere, but that was just like that was kind of a memorable moment to me too. Of like, he ran through it, ran past the cameraman, and just kind of kept going.
Yeah. It reminded me of Bo Jackson when he scored the touchdown and disappeared into the
Into the tunnel.
into the tunnel.
Yeah. He's good, man. He's got instincts for making iconic moments. I hadn't seen him chugging any Coors, but he did repost your post about Coors. Did you have a case of Coors at home? Did you take that photo yourself?
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. So there you go, Coors. I'm buying your product on the hype
Yep.
train of Dan Green.
Yeah. I saw some other people buying it because of Dan too. So Dan's got to either stop posting about him because they're getting free play off of him, or write that man a 7-figure check. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, but yeah, if we're looking at the made men and associates, I mean, I think Killian had a day that lived up to his legacy. We can no longer josh him with being slower than Courtney. He put up a fantastic all-time time at Western States.
Yeah.
Dan Jones becoming just a monodrome there. You can pretty much set your watch to him showing up and hanging around the top 5. I think Rod had a tough day at it, tried to get the finish, but eventually ended up dropping.
Right at
Adam Peterman had a tough day. I think he kind of walked it in for a sub 24 hour, somewhere in that range. I forgot where it was. David obviously had his prolific drop, and Vincent, I think he also ended up dropping. And then Seth kind of in that same boat of Hans, where, this is kind of, I think, a career transitioning moment for him, right? Like, he might be all in on these hundreds now and trying to problem solve, and build on his, I think, 5th or 6th place finish. And then, we already talked about Hans and Caleb. So that kind of wraps up the made men and associate.
Yeah. Adam Peterman came in at 23:09. Now, that's not normal for an elite. I've always said I don't mind the elite DNF. Like, if you only got a certain number of like elite performances in those legs, I don't mind. Hey, if it's not here today, you're not out here building a brand as DFL before DNF. I don't save it. But so he's working through something, and he needed to. I'd love to chat with him about what was going through his head to go ahead and get the 23:09. Was that a personal thing for him to just endure? Did he need to see it to the finish to keep that his psychology of like seeing the finish line? But I admire it. I would admire either way, DNFing or keeping going as an elite.
Yeah. Yeah. Another fascinating storyline that I wish we would have maybe spent a minute on in the lead up to it was that his wife was also running Western States.
Yeah. I didn't know that either until coverage.
Right. And so unfortunately, she finishes in the, the dreaded 11th place position. So, a solid finish, but 11th is one of those always ones where you're just kind of banging your head knowing that you're going to have to go run it back again next year in the qualifying series if you want back in 1852. So, good on them. It's awesome for them both to get the finish.
I do have to say that I admit that I was wrong about Killian. And it's easy to admit it here because in some ways we were also still right. I didn't think that he could run it that fast. Still got 3rd, but I thought all along I'd been saying if it's a true race where we're not at near course record, that I think he'll race smarter than anybody. But man, I hats off to Killian for that performance that many years later to beat his own course record, his personal best on that course by an hour,
right?
More than an hour. That's to me, that was because I'm not a big mountain guy, and then the alpinism, all that sort of stuff. That's just not my world of getting excited about. So then to see him this many years later get a course record for himself, a personal best on that course, just that squarely put him in a place that I had not let him live in my mind. Which I'm probably the last one to get on that train, but really impressed. So I was wrong.
Yep. Yeah. Nothing more than to celebrate for, what he accomplished and just the joy in doing it in Killian fashion. So here's something fascinating that, so our boys at Believe in the Run, they were there. You could see Thomas at the finish line at Golden Hour getting all teary eyed. So I'm sure he's, he gets it. He understands now. He's one of us. So saw
Yeah.
Taylor there, and I think and Meg was there. So, anyways, talking about shoes, the top 10. This is
Uh-huh.
fascinating. No duplicity. So Caleb, Nike, Chris, Brooks, Killian, normal, Jeff, On, Dan, Adidas, Seth, North Face, Ryan, Norda, Hans, Ultra, Peter was that Scarpa, I believe, right? That's a footwear company, right?
Yep.
Yep. And then Kai, the crazy Kai, the Japanese runner, I don't know if he has a shoe deal. So he had a few different shoes that I saw him wearing. So I'm just calling
Okay.
him kind of a David Roach kind of grab bag type guy. So,
Yeah.
and so two things at
Wow.
once are happening here that are crazy. No duplicity,
Uh-huh.
no Hoka.
That's wow. Yeah, wasn't I'll say our guy, but the guy that we were rooting for, Ireland from Ireland, Ricky Wynn.
Ricky.
He was top finishing Hoka Male.
That's what I saw, and that's
Yeah,
what got me down this rabbit hole.
I
So
didn't
you
even put two. I read that and I didn't even put two and two together. Like, of course, there's going to be like three Hoka in top 10, but that is wild.
right? I mean, so you had Jim, you had Hayden, you had Jonathan Ray all pull out, before,
Whoa.
and then you had Rod and Vincent as DNF. So there you've got the Hoka Mount Rushmore,
Yeah,
not getting across the finish line. That's
that,
that's fascinating.
fascinating insight. That's good.
You
Um,
wonder if things like that ever move the needle on like sales, a, 1 or 2 quarters down the road, like how much of that matters. It probably, I mean, Hoka's a lifestyle shoe for
yeah,
its most, for most of its sales, but from its trail lineup, I wonder how much of that matters.
yeah. I've just heard, and it's probably anecdotal, but that win on Sunday, sell on Monday is not quite as impactful as it used to be. As the way that runners are coming into the sport, they're less, they're paying attention a little bit less to the elite. So if you give that elite the big contract, it's less about making sales less and less on the next day.
Right.
Uh, I don't, but I think Hoka depends on that podium for name recognition. This will probably be an outlier, um, but that's a really good observation on your part.
Yeah. I think they're the biggest, if you have winners and losers coming out of the weekend, like in a traditional like sports radio
Yeah,
show, I think Hoka would definitely have been, one of the biggest losers just because they're the marquee title sponsor and
yeah,
they've really got, nothing to be able to hang their hat on from this year.
yeah. I do want to get a shout out to Ryan Montgomery matching his best of M7 on the
Dang. All day
podcast.
long, man. Guy
I
was
know.
just grinding it out, moving it up. I mean, super
Impressive,
impressive.
impressive. I think he's got all the pieces. He's young enough still, and he's clearly got the ability to come from pretty far back and push and keep going. I mean, just an impressive like stick to itiveness there on his part to get that to match his best M7, but 15:54. It is crazy. I wonder, the distance from Caleb to Kai, 14:11 to 16:22. That feels like a long way from first to 10th, like a long tail there.
Yeah, this
But
was more of a traditional states, where you had some attrition, you had some not just mini fades, but you had some, you know, moderate bonks basically, and then rallies, I think, and
yeah,
so that's what created kind of that bigger spread
yeah,
than what you've seen over the last couple of years.
yeah. Also, I was really pumped throughout the race. I was watching Ida Nielsen, 43 craft athlete, landing in fourth. I loved seeing her in that top three, but coming in fourth at 17 hours was pretty awesome. And then Emily Hawgood, official friend of the podcast, sliding into M10. She'll be back next year.
Right.
So fun stuff over there too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I had up some of the age group. Unfortunately, Browning I think had a rougher go at it.
Yeah,
Didn't pull out the 50 age group record. So I think just the heat of the day, was one of the reoccurring issues. To celebrate though, we had a 72-year-old get across the finish
I
line. So
saw that.
yeah, Jean
Looked good.
Black,
He looked. I mean, he looked.
29:02.
he looked good coming across. I was tuned in at that moment when he was coming across. I thought, wow,
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, the guy had a solid stride going and everything. And
yeah,
then really a cool shout out to Howard Norton, 63 years old, with the 2349 silver buckle.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. I was watching some of those. I was curious. Like the golden hour that I like more is the 23 to 24 hour. I like
Okay.
that. That's more the hour I enjoy because as I've said in the past, and Colby Sharp's giving me a hard time about it, is I don't love the golden hour that much because I feel like the people who celebrate it most are people who've never ever been in the golden hour as runners, and so it feels like it tokenizes us a little bit.
Yeah.
But but I love that it gets. It's fine that it gets celebrated. But to me, that watching, because my dream would be to sub 24 100 miler someday somewhere. I can more resonate with the fire that might be in that person. Like I so desperately want to be in that situation someday where I'm fighting and hustling to get beneath that 24. That it was a higher priority for me to tune in for that one.
Right. And you probably have different mentalities, depending on where you're at in the golden hour
Yeah,
with your potential, right? Like some are
right.
probably in this mind state of not being so appreciative, right? Like if you're somebody who was tracking like sub 24 and you're just having a rough go at it and you're eventually just going to get across the finish line, you're just like, let's get this thing done and over with. If you're
Yeah,
somebody who was like 28 to 30 hours is kind of your goal and you're pumped up and excited, like it sounds like you can have two different, experiences as the
yeah,
runner at that golden hour level.
yeah. And then in between, this is part of it too. As someone who sits often in the bottom 25% of the pack, you celebrate the final hour. Like everybody's grinding to get their thing, to get their time. It just so happens
Right.
that those people are the last, and almost feels like, you know, I don't know, tokenization, because everyone's grinding. Everyone's grinding. So let's celebrate them. I get it, right before the end, and then come in right after, which this is fun to talk about. Or actually, I'm curious your take. The man versus horse giving
I was going to
their
ask you.
giving their ticket to the person who just missed. Came in at 30 minutes and 2 seconds. I mean, sorry, 30 hours and 2 seconds, right?
Yeah. So
What do you
there's,
think?
there's two things here first. So just so everybody knows that's listening, right? At Western States, the 30-hour cutoff is for a belt buckle finish. But what they have is as long as you get past the last checkpoint before the cutoff, they allow you to finish the race as long as you can get to the finish line. So it's kind of confusing, or it kind of creates like two
It
different
is.
types of finisher, right?
Yeah.
You get the sub 30-hour finish for the belt buckle, and then if you finish after 30 hours, like some of these gentlemen did, you get the finisher's medal, but you don't get the belt buckle. And then if you don't
I
get to
never
the
knew
last,
this.
yeah, if you don't get to the last cutoff, then you're a DNF at like 98 or whatever it is. And so
Got it.
yeah, it's just you're always going to have like some sort of goal line, and I think
Yeah.
some of these things just kind of move the goal line where we celebrate others and others go uncelebrated, right? Because the guy who gets cut off at 98, why don't we have a camera there? That seems like another spot where
Of big heart,
you
big
can,
emotions.
yeah, exactly, you can have people cheering for that individual who went 30 hours, 98 miles, and doesn't get to the track. That's
Yeah.
also heart wrenching. But again, you got to pick and choose, I guess, where you stop the camera rolling and who to
Yeah.
celebrate and what stories are, going to be shared with everybody. But yeah, so Man vs. Horse this year, I guess they've officially become a partner or sponsor of some type with Western States. And I guess anytime you make that investment, the race gives you an entry into the race to use at your discretion. And so, yeah, Man against Horse decided this year to award it to the first finisher after the 30-hour cutoff. So this gentleman comes across the finish line and they're right there and they're in his ear, I think, letting him know, hey, you're going to get to come back again next year if you want and run Western States. I was thinking they had just given him an entry to Man against Horse and was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Right. Yeah. That's nice too. That's cool.
Right. But then again, all it does is just kick the goal line a little bit later because then here comes now a guy finishing like 3 minutes behind that individual. And I'm like, well, now that guy's pissed because he doesn't get the belt buckle. He's a 30-hour finisher, and then he looks at this guy, and the guy in front of him gets to come back again next year and run Western States. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because it's like, hey, that's cool. That's a nice gesture, but here we are talking about man against horse. That's the
right.
win. That's what they wanted. I think you and I had some offline, just brief chat about them. I think they get marketing over there. I think they get it, and to your point, they're looking to grow man against horse. I think it's one of America's coolest races conceptually, because I love the idea of man against horse. But I, yeah, if you finished 29:53 or you finished 30 hours, 4 minutes, you missed out. You could have thrown the race or, I don't, yeah, is what it is. I love the gesture. I love the gesture. How about that?
Yeah. And I'm not too sure what exactly the partnership is built on. Like, I don't know if Man Against Horse is looking to increase its registration and volume, or if it's just some sort of symbolic partnership of like states was created out of the bet of a horse race and a man. And so
Yeah.
Man Against Horse is kind of, embodying the spirit of Western states. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if it's just they're wanting to help invest in the trail community there. It doesn't make sense to me, I guess, because I don't
Yeah.
know that Man Against Horse is trying to become some commercial
Right.
race organization like
Yeah. Wonder.
Aravaipa, but
Yeah.
that's what you would think you would use a partnership with Western States to do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe we'll
Before
see
we,
Man Against Horse evolve into some sort of new, larger
It'd be
scale
cool.
race with a live stream. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we go into some of our other narratives, I want to get a shout out to Outrider Running League, this thing that we've been concepting for a while. You can actually register now today. It's too complex to just like run through exactly how it would go. Like here, we got a rule book, essentially. Like we're putting together teams of three. We're looking to get 8 teams. You can sign up as an individual or you can sign up with your team. It is slightly more expensive to sign up as an individual because we're going to then work to pair you with people. Um, but officially today, you can go to borderlands.cc/outrider or click the link in the show notes and, man, join us. It's going to be a 10-week league, 6 weeks of round robin. Then we're going to go into 4-week playoff. And then we're going to end with a championship week, all that's been concepted and brainstormed on this podcast and offline between Brian and I. And I'm just really pumped. I'm really pumped. I'm not planning to be on a team until we see how many people sign up. And if there's like 2 individuals, I'll jump on a team or something like that. But to be a commissioner, we'll have referees. I'm just pumped. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to conceptualize it for people, the best way I explain it to guys is, if you love watching states or you love watching Cocodona, any of these major live streams, you're active in the live chat. Like this is basically the real life version of that. Like you get to be the runner
Yeah.
and have your own banter with a bunch of guys. Hopefully we get a couple women. It's certainly co-ed, so all are
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what this is. It's like it's that live chat community of passionate trail runners. But instead of you talking about others that are running, you're going to be out there doing the running. So again, it's just trying to have some more fun, take something that we're already doing and training and turn it into a little bit of a fun competition and camaraderie with people that you otherwise, may have not connected with.
If you sign up this week, the week of this podcast, June 30th, 15% off if you use discount code Outrider. So jump in. We want to fill it up as fast as possible. Season starts September 1st. And if we get all 8 teams and we have enough of a wait list, we could open a second chunk of 8. But for now, we're just focused on 8. Outrider gets you 15% off for the next, that ends on Friday of this week. So jump in, join us. It's going to be a blast. And we'll continue to flesh out the concept over time with the podcast and then a ton of media as it's happening, because I just think there's going to be a lot of fun stories. A lot of us, have been saying it's the old man, the old co-ed softball league of trail running, or your routes could be road as well. But let that competitive fire in you, not just be for your one race in the year, but every week for 10 weeks. It scratches an itch for me. So I hope it does for you.
Let's not make it too much of a bunch of old heads, though. I mean, the Hans Troyer effect is going to bring some young blood into the
Do it.
community,
Do
and
it.
we need that, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
remind
I've
these
seen
young guys that
more than enough fights break out at these softball leagues I'm talking about. There's fire.
Yeah. Let's get some of that young testosterone and blood in here, so we can remind them, we still got some life left in these legs here. So
Totally, totally. Okay, so Ben Gibbard, I was following Ben Gibbard a lot in the race. Just again, I like Death Cab for Cutie. I think Plans is one of the top 10 albums of all time. So he had a rough second half of the race. He had a stellar first half. I don't know where he got hung up, but he came in at 27:15. Great result for someone who's got a full time job, with those sorts of demands. Also, Chris Severson, who we were following. Shout out to David McBride, sending a lot of great updates. Chris just pushed through. His A goal was 24, but he finished at 26:39. Most of the time, Ben Gibbard was ahead of him, and so at one point, whenever Ben had to sit back and take care of some, whatever he needed to do to push through, Chris must have went past him in the dark of night and ended up finishing ahead of him by just less than an hour. So two people not going for the podium, but going for their own personal podium, and that was a blast to watch.
yeah, that's fun. Yeah, good for Chris, man. I think that is a result that he can be proud of, and I'm sure he'll look back, and I'm sure he knows he got the best out of himself with the day, and how everything unfolded.
Yeah, should we cut to our prize money, Cam? See how much prize money the podium got?
Last time I
Zero.
checked, there was the helicopter was still en route, but
I think it's still zero.
it is zero. Okay.
Next time.
Well, zero energy is the most powerful energy source, so maybe it is great that we have zero prize money, right?
I just wonder. This goes back to one of your initial comments, saying that his life has been changed. It is, but it's not marketed. And some sponsor coming in to sponsor the podium. To whom does this spoil the race? I would love to have them on. We could do a states debate about it. I would love to hear. I want to hear the steelman of the argument for no prize money. I mean, we've tried to steelman it, but it just feels like how now look at Caleb and say, yeah, you don't deserve prize money. If you want prize money, you have misunderstood this race. Can you imagine looking him in the eyes? Mentioned it 1,000 times. He's a new dad. He's been grinding hard to get this race, and then say no, and we never will, because if I gave you money, Caleb, that would make Western States less of a race. It would diminish its heritage or its legacy. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's just that whole identity crisis. I'm giving Debo the benefit of the doubt, and probably trying to put myself in his situation. Like, the energy there, you could feel it on the live stream, right? Like, something has just been accomplished that's incredible, and there's a whole lot of people that are cheering this on, and so it looks like, it feels like, it sounds like a life-changing moment for this person, right?
Right.
Like, the only
Yes.
reason why it's not is because Western States chooses to not allow it to be a potential life-changing moment. Like, they're not leaning into creating a prize money pool through sponsorship or any other financial sources for it to be that. And
Right.
again, yeah, we've tried our best in real sincerity to steelman the argument and find reason why, or trade-offs that maybe we're blind to. But again, it's 2025. There is absolutely no good faith argument as to why prize money would dilute or dirty the reputation of Western States.
I think. I mean, that the further discussion on that, I think we keep our kind of foot on the pedal. We don't have to keep it down to the metal, but I think like that's a conversation that from our interaction with other elites, like someone needs to spearhead that has nothing to lose. I think an athlete podcaster might have something to lose, or someone who's trying to like make sure that they fit into that world, the Aravipa, Western States, free trail world. You have something to lose probably if you go hard after in the paint on this topic, but I don't feel like we have anything to lose on that. So long as we bring like in good faith arguments and open to counter arguments. But I think we could rally together some elites and have a forum on it and just, make sure that we're thinking of the right way, and then keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the one that I took more critical was Debo's comment interviewing Killian about him being the individual, that's done the most for Western States, right? So he's interviewing Killian after his finish, after his podium, and he makes this comment about how, thank you, Killian, you've done the most for lifting up Western States, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what, this guy hasn't been here in 14 years, and it's not even like in his absence he's done something vocally
Yeah.
about celebrating Western States, and
Yeah.
so I just didn't understand what that meant. It didn't land on me.
I think we're at the point, we're at the a place in I think trail running media where if you say something negative, you lose negative, neutral, or even just like non-high complimentary, you lose the ability to have access to that person anymore. I don't think that there's the PR energy to understand that even if Debo offered a critique or didn't say that exact comment, for them to say, "Hey, we know that you've been critical, but you've got the eyes and ears, and we want to get on your show again." I think there's just a lot of like energy like that in the sport right now, where the leading voices feel like if they aren't high praise, then they might lose access. That's somewhat cynical. That also could have just been really excited in the moment and just said something. You know how that goes. Like, oh, you're the best. You're the most beautiful person in the world. And so maybe there was just some of that, genuine enthusiasm, excitement to be sitting next to, someone like Killian.
Right. Yeah, those post race interviews right there on the track, they're always going to be kind of just softballers, as they
Yeah.
should be. I mean, these guys have gone,
Yes. Absolutely.
14 hours, 15 hours
Yes.
of,
It should just be a celebration of what they
yeah,
just did. Yeah.
their mental faculties are not online for you to ask them any sort of critical questions or tough,
Right.
engaging questions. So just keep it simple, keep it easy. But yeah, you're right. I mean, just the amount of, catering and kowtowing to these individuals. Sometimes you say things that just, they don't land in
Yeah.
retrospect.
Yeah. Not that any of us are near the numbers or contract size of a Stephen A. Smith, but if Stephen A. Smith said something crazy critical about an NBA player, and then that NBA player had the chance to go on that show, there's the team around that player knows that, hey, get on that show. You need that for your personal brand. I don't feel like we're there yet. There's still too much of the kowtow sort of vibe.
Right. Yeah.
I got stats up here on our 200 milers that we were watching, or
Yeah.
let's say our major endurance. Tara Dower, hated to see that happen at Ford's Bar, the DNF. So then we had Joe McConaughey, Harry Sabertis, and Dan Green. Dan Green emerging victorious, 17:14. Joe McConaughey, 18:02, and Harry Sabertis, 21:54. So it looks like Harry must have had a moment later in the race because he was hanging in there for a while.
Yeah.
At least when we were
Gotta
paying
love
close.
Harry's race style, man. Doesn't matter the distance, doesn't matter the
Yeah.
surface, right? I mean, this guy just decides I'm going out in the first 50K with the front pack,
Yes.
and I'm either gonna nail it or
Yeah.
I'm gonna rally later. So good on
Yeah.
him. And yeah, it looked like String Bean had his own little rough patch late because he was hovering around that 11 to 13th spot as well,
Yeah.
before bleeding out some time there at the end.
I do want to get a shout out also to Ira Libre and Naked Sports Innovations for making it happen. Ira Libre, they helped support our Paris Fashion Week coverage, the race that we did on the Seine, and obviously our Western States coverage. Click their link in the show notes because they're man. I just think their aesthetic is beautiful. They have a video. I'll get that in the show notes too. They have a video that just, if you're looking to do the run tourism thing that's exploding, I tell you that's who I would do it with. I hope to do it with them at some point. And then, of course, Naked Sports Innovations, the belt. We saw the belt all over Western States. Lindsay over there has been super supportive of us. So couldn't have done any of this without them. And it was a crazy hustle the last 7 days with that Western States coverage just being a wild way to end a wildly busy week. So thanks to our partners
Yeah.
on those.
Yeah, super appreciative for them and all their support. And yeah, man, I mean, I think it was definitely a success, a victory.
Yeah. We learned a
And
lot. We
now
learned a
what?
lot about what we want to do in the future. Like, do we want to do that again? How do we want to cover UTMB? I love those pre-race interviews. I feel like those were the most interesting and powerful. We got so much good feedback for giving a different look at these athletes. For the way that you and I did it, I think there's always going to be a place for that, no matter who else they interview, to just give a 10-minute thing to these guys or gals and just make them look charming, happy, likable. I think we really did something to be proud of on those.
Yeah. I still think when you get time and settled in, you got to go back and mash together kind of a highlight reel of all the interviews that we did,
Yeah,
with some of the best moments. I think
yeah,
a
that's a
lot of
good
people
idea.
would really enjoy that, and it'd be a nice time capsule to easily look back on and celebrate
Yeah,
this year.
and also I'll play this again. That Hyperlight Hotline, please support Hyperlight. They were awesome. They were out there with Hans. They are boots on the ground, those owners. But July, as we are going to be taking a breath in July. We are going to do Bad Runners Take, at least 3 episodes in the month of July, and we want it to be heavy Hyperlight Hotline. We're going to have stuff to talk about as we usually do, but if it could be all you all who are listening to this, giving us insights on anything across the board, we would give up whole episodes just to hear all of your calls and respond to all your questions. So jump on the Hyperlight Hotline. That link's in the show notes too.
Yeah, man. If we can get like 8, 9, 10 of these things queued up, we can just go long form with responses and taking listener calls. So
Yeah.
bring them on, guys. I know. So like let's call it out, right? I mean, I know that the attempt to go international put us in a bit more of a wonky
Oh yeah. Right.
intake for submitting the calls. So guys, again, it's not a phone number that you can use to call in. It's going to be directly available from the Borderlands website. Biles in both Josh and mine's profile on Borderlands. But basically, when you land on Borderlands website, you'll see the Hyperlight Hotline. You click there, and then it's basically just like a microphone button. You'll be able to click and record up to 60 seconds, and those get delivered over to us.
And if for some reason that technology is just giving you a headache, our old phone number does still work. We'd be happy to still take calls on it. It's run more 649. So if you still have that link, you can call in on that one as well.
Yeah.
Get in touch with us. Send us voicemails from a recording on your phone, anything like that. We want to talk. We want to hear from you. We just got real hyped on all that live coverage that we did and how engaged you all were and asking us questions and all that.
Yeah. And DM us, Josh or I are available. If you leave a message, you're unsure if it got sent, just, let us know you delivered something and we'll confirm we've got it and put you in the queue.
All right. Well, Brian, we're going to think about what we're going to do for UTMB. We're going to have a great month. Just you and I doing these once a week. Everything else is going to be kind of throttled to take a time to take a deep breath and do a ton of editorial planning, a ton of thinking through the future. Reemerge in August, I think, with a pretty solid approach to this whole media thing, the whole mobile app technology, the events we do in Salt Lake, Outrider, lots coming. So we need to take a deep breath and get our heads together. Everyone needs to get aligned around here at Borderlands. So any final thoughts on this one before we launch into that season?
No, man, just put a pin in it and start pivoting now towards UTMB. Is Killian going to come back and is UTMB going to be where Unbreakable 2 is filmed, right? Are we going to get all of a sudden Killian, Jim, Hayden? Like, who knows? Right now, all of a sudden, UTMB looks pretty interesting, especially if does Caleb go over there now and do the double? Like, just so many questions, and we'll start getting some more answers here over the next couple weeks.
All right, final thought. This credit to you on this question. I'm just thinking of it right now. If Unbreakable 2 had been filmed anyways, would it have been what they needed it to be? Would it have been as successful as Unbreakable 1?
My answer is no, with the pretense that their goal for Unbreakable 2 was to go mainstream and capture audience attention from non already committed and passionate fans. So I would have said no, because my thought about it would have been a fantastic film with nothing but great actors in a supporting role, and it didn't have kind of that marquee name up there all day long. So
too many associates, not enough made men.
Yeah, because even Killian for everything that he is, I think the race style and just what he's choosing to do with the sport now in his life, he's just he's not carrying the mantle forward.
Wasn't there. Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be fun to see where one unfolds, but something like Unbreakable 1 unfolds organically and naturally. It's a lot of pressure to call something Unbreakable 2.
Right.
Just let it be its own documentary. that's otherwise you got people's hopes set up so high. It's really hard to deliver on that.
Yeah, because I mean, not to carry this on too much longer, but like
Yeah.
Unbreakable one, could you imagine if it was 4 or 5 Jeff Roses? Like, no, you needed the young Killian in the white spandex, just
Yes.
bounding down the trails. You needed, the legacy of Anton in the lore, right? And then
Yep.
Jeff Rose slides in as a nice supporting character who comes
Yeah.
out of nowhere to win the thing, right?
Right.
But this
Right.
this wasn't the case this year, so
Yeah.
that's just the way to just so we're not being critical. We're not picking a scab there just to be
Yeah.
assholes for no reason. I think we
Right.
we have a good point there.
Yeah. The future is bright. There's so many great documentary makers out there. We're going to have another hit. It just may not be called Unbreakable 2, but there's going to be another hit. If someone digs in and really covers the way that JB Bennett covered that, a new hit is inevitable.
Right.
All
Right.
right, man. We'll do this again next week.
Nah, man. Later.